This is Don't Get Me Started. This is a conversation about advertising. And here is your host, freelance creative director and creative circus department head, Dan Balser.
Yes, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. 2020 is getting off to a bang. I hope this is entertaining for you because Ben and I now go back. We go way back, 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours.
Yeah, probably just over 90.
Just came out of a great talk, and I always feel a little bad because most of the listeners did not have the privilege of hearing Ben do a presentation just now, and it was inspiring and it was enlightening. And I'm going to go over a little bit of some bio, a little bit of background of thought matter, because I'm assuming that the majority of the listeners really don't know much about Thought Matter or Ben Greengrass, creative director, award-winning creative director whose sleeves are rarely rolled down, developed a hands-on approach over the course of more than 2 decades working in a cutting-edge branding agency environment. Ben has worked with a diverse range of global and local brands, including the FA, the Football Association in England, which oversees, for those of you that don't know, all the professional leagues and the national team in England. Umbro, Welcome to Yorkshire, The Breakfast Club, which is I think a coffee shop in England, is that right?
Yeah, we could call them a coffee. No, it's more of a cafe.
A cafe, okay. Yeah. P&G, Jet.com, Rubin Museum of Art. Ben is a Leeds United supporter. Currently, as we're recording this, Leeds sit in second place in the second tier league in England, the FA Championship. 1 slim point behind West Brom. As it stands now, they would be promoted to the Premier League along with West Brom and Brentford, but never count Fulham or Forest out. So he's got a weird, twisted look on his face.
I don't want to talk about it, to be honest. I feel like after last season, I don't want to go there again.
You believe in jinxes?
I totally, 100%.
Okay, right. Yes. Okay, so do you feel like it probably shouldn't keep that in there then?
I don't know. See how it sounds, but I just don't want to. At this point, don't want to jinx it.
I think that's interesting that people still believe in jinxes. I do. I believe that you can affect things that you can affect. So I was having this conversation with my son because we both play FIFA Ultimate Team.
Oh yeah.
And in Ultimate Team, you get these packs that you can earn or you purchase with in-game currency. And he believes that we never do well in those packs when we open them together. So therefore, I'm bad luck to him and he's bad luck to me. And I say, well, if I attend one of your games and you don't play well when I'm there could be something to that because you're distracted or you're looking over at me. But when you and I are, no matter where we sit in the house, if I'm with you or not with you, it doesn't affect the algorithms of the pack opening somewhere in a server somewhere else. Yeah. You can't believe that. But he believes it, and I respect the fact that people believe in jinxes. Okay, so... Yeah, what are you going to say? You're going to say something?
It's fine. I totally believe in jinxes. So, yeah. We'll stop talking about it.
I didn't say anything. I didn't make predictions. I didn't say anything about the future.
Well, just even talking about it, just talking about the fact that, you're kind of... Well, currently Leeds have adopted this song, which was like, I Hate, which is basically... it's a famous English song at the moment. It's called Pump It Up, Leeds Are Going Up, right?
Pump It Up, Leeds Are Going Up.
Pump It Up, Leeds... I'm not even going to sing it, but... That to me is like jinxing the whole affair. It's like, why are people doing that? Why are they singing about going up when they're not gone up? You just don't do that.
It's a great song when you're mathematically promoted. You can sing it.
Yeah, but then opposing fans, as Leeds slip up, and
they're going to sing it even louder. They're going to change it.
Leeds will fuck it up. Or,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of it's not cool.
You're open up to it, right? It's not a good thing.
That's not a good thing.
No, it's okay though. Once you're mathematically promoted, you can sing the song.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, not until then.
So I'm going to be the millennial on this podcast for a second. I'm going to read the background on Thought Matter because I thought I printed this and I didn't. So Thought Matter is an unabashedly social aware design agency with a culture and creative approach that is inspired by the traditions of political activism and community building. Most famously, they're known for the portable populist redesign of the U.S. Constitution, which was covered by Fast Company, HuffPost, and others, as well as their protest posters, which have been used across countless cities for the Women's March and the March for Our Lives, earning them attention from New York Times, Elle, and BuzzFeed. Their other client work ranges from designs for boundary-pushing sustainable feminine care company Thinx and identities for art museums to visuals and websites for community organizations across New York City. As you might have detected through the early section of this podcast, Ben is not a native New Yorker, but he has, I think, embraced the design scene in New York and doing work that's on the ground in New York. And first of all, welcome to the conversation. Welcome to the circus. I hope your day's been good.
It's been great. Yes, it's been inspiring actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Looking at books was inspiring.
Looking at books, talking to students, seeing this place, seeing this kind of the whole setup, and
this room's pretty.
not this particular
This room's
space,
pretty
maybe,
luxurious, isn't it?
but out there behind those walls, it was pretty inspiring.
That's
There's a
great.
lot of collaboration going on here as well, which was good to see.
Yeah, that's real. I think that's a super important thing. And have you been in environments in your history, in your design career, that felt less collaborative, that felt sort of like siloed or individualized? Is that
Sometimes, I mean, there's been instances. I mean, it's more to do with the people. I think sometimes designers in particular can be a little bit can have that silo mentality. So they kind of want to be working on their own. They don't want to necessarily be like sharing everything, right? So that to me can work, but it's not as rich as an experience as if everybody's collaborating and everybody's getting involved.
Is it harder in design to collaborate? Is it harder to collaborate in design? Because the reason why my theory on why that's arguably true is that you guys make shit. You make things, and by making something, the making of the thing is the thing you're doing. So it's kind of just natural to be focused on the making. Is that part
I think
of
there's times when you want to focus, but there's key times in the design process where you want to be collaborating. You want to be getting lots of ideas together. You want to be kind of seeing what's possible. There's certainly times when you want to go and focus and craft and like, you know, put your mind to what you're doing and kind of go off on your own and do it. But I think you know, to go through the whole process on your own sometimes can be challenging. So
no, it's not productive. I don't mean to put you on the spot. If you remember the exact quote, the Lincoln quote in your presentation about if I had 10 hours.
Oh no, it's if I had six hours to chop down a tree, I would spend 4 hours sharpening the axe.
Like 4 hours sharpening it. I swear I said that this was my I'm putting massive air quotes, my lesson in my classes this week. So I'm a teacher, but I've told my classes this, full disclosure. I don't really think I'm a teacher. I think I'm a coach. I think I'm an enabler and an identifier of talent and a sort of catalyst to people's creative finding of themselves, their creative search, right? But one of the thing I said this week was, and I saw it so it's plain as day when people presented on the wall. You guys started doing things without thinking first.
Yep.
You guys spent time thinking, and I tell them spend the entire first meeting with your partner talking about everything but the solution, everything around that brand, that truth, society, anthropology, observations about people. I think that's what that's about. That's the part that's exciting to collaborate, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, yeah. And you know, it's true. It's, you know, you put your time in on the research. You think about the kind of, you know, everything possible, everything that's out there, all the angles you can come at, right? And you really put that time into that 4 hours. You know, your tree will fall down in the end because you've put so much sort of, you know, thinking into it prior. But some designers will kind of really just start, okay, what's the solution before you've, you know, gone out there and done your thing.
Those things reveal themselves to you when you've done the first part.
Yeah, I think trust in the fact that that's going to happen is key too.
That's big. That's really true. That only comes with a little bit of maturity, I think, probably. So we didn't go over the resume, but the big chunk, I can't even do the math on this. You said you're not very strong at math. I can't do the addition and subtraction on this one. How long that you were at Elmwood, but it's a long time.
Yeah.
So
I do look at that like two jobs because I was in the UK, then I came to New York, so that was split not down the middle, but near enough down the middle. So to me, that felt like, you know, and what I was and from my talk earlier, you know, I talked about shifting from corporate through literature and that kind of work into more of a packaging focused world, which was alien for me at the time. But again, the reason I did it was because New York, you know, that was what's required, and that's what made me, you know, what was my ticket to New York. So the math is graduated in '92, worked for a couple of years within the college university that I graduated from. 3 years in another agency in Leeds, moved to Elmwood for 13, 8 years in New York, and then Thought Matter for the last 18 months.
Only 18 months?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. So the reason I asked that, there's 2 questions embedded in the career flow that I want to talk about. One is, what is your job and what has been your job, and how has the job changed? So we can start with that, and connected to that, how has your job changed? How has your approach, your mental and craft approach to your job changed? And you understand the question about what your job is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the job title, obviously, creative director, but I mean, the way I equate it is there's very different kinds of creative directors. So I feel like I in the last 18 months, I've shifted from one kind of creative director to another kind of creative director. So, I was, especially when starting out in New York, I was very hands-on. I was actually, even when I became a creative director, I was acting more like a design director. Because, creative directors doing more work, getting in there, kind of like taking on more responsibility of the work, working with a team, but taking a chunk of the work on yourself. Whereas as you become creative director, you kind of let go of that a little bit, and you have more projects on your plate. You'll kind of, you'll do a lot more the client side of things. You'll think about new business more critically than you did as a design director.
You feel more like you're responsible for the welfare of the entire shop in a way.
Yeah. So as a creative director, you feel empowered. You hopefully feel empowered to be this person who, is driving the creative vision, is driving the kind of work you work on, is driving the creativity, and making sure that that every piece of work that goes out of the door is the best it can be. But it's your job as a creative director to inspire people to do that. So you're not, as you may have been doing that in the past. Now your whole effort is to get other people to do that work, to inspire designers to do it, to find the right designers to do it. So it's it's very different. And and I think it took me a long time to really wrap my head around that as a transition from a design director to a creative director, because I still kind of wanted to get in and do it, right?
Why? Like, what was
why?
it?
Because it's what I'd always done, and there was a need for a creative director. So Ben, we want you to be creative director. Brilliant. I'll just carry on doing what I'm doing, but I'll just have a new title. The title change is a whole mindset change, or it has to be. But I didn't really understand that at the time.
That's not surprising when you put it that way.
But then
this is very interesting. I want to sit on that for one second, because I think people get the title and it's not clearly defined what that means from day to day and from minute to minute, and it is a sort of a growth maturation part. Okay, I cut you off. I apologize.
But also if you think about the time that I was at Elmwood, the company Elmwood, it was basically, it kind of grew up with that company. So as a creative director, you're perceived. If you're hired as a creative director in a new company, that to me is a moment when you can really refocus on kind of how you want to be, what you want to be as a creative director. And that's what happened at Thought Matter. As I came into Thought Matter, I could really reassess how I was as a creative director and what I wanted to be.
And there's not one single person at Thought Matter who looks at you as a senior designer anymore.
No, because they didn't know me as a senior designer. They didn't know me as a design director.
Exactly.
They know me as a creative director.
Correct.
So that that was a refreshing moment.
So that's a transition. Were there other transitions from either geographical, cultural, or job title, job responsibility earlier on in the career? You were out of school working for the school, and you took your first job. Were there things that you learned that there were challenges, or things that also were a bit of a, I don't want to say struggle, but a bit of a struggle?
No, when I graduated, I got this first job, and honestly, I did not care. I didn't really care. I didn't have a care in the world. I literally just started designing, and and going back to a little bit what I talked about earlier, it was a lot of fun, right? You don't stay at a company so long if it's not fun, right? You kind of so I carried on designing and doing different things and getting into projects, and the FA project supercharged everything because it was such a personal project to me and such a lot of fun.
Fucking ridiculous.
It's crazy. And then other projects, and I had some, but then there was a point when kind of the fun it's harder to have the fun because of the responsibility or the kind of work you're working on. So and as I said, I think the single biggest catalyst for creativity is fun. So if you're enjoying what you're doing, you're going to create your better work. You're gonna come up with some goals. You're not gonna you're not kind of turning yourself in circles and beating yourself up. And it's hard to do. It's not easy to do. So
what's your favorite thing about work now, your job, the career, being a creative director at a place like Thought Matter? What do you like? What's your favorite part of it?
It's the it's the kind of the it's not just the amount of work, but it's the pace of the work, and it's the kind of the I don't want to throw the diversity word around, but they're diverse clients, right, and diverse projects, and different things happening all the time.
Yeah.
And I look at kind of the projects that we're on at the moment. We're just about to launch a docuseries, right? 2 years ago, docuseries. I had no idea what you're talking about,
great.
right? Or we're doing podcasts, or we're doing we're doing print material, we're doing posters, we're doing activism, we're doing these different things, and every
Medium articles, blog posts,
absolutely
writing.
writing. The writing part I thought was massive. So all those things coming together, it's a much richer pot of things. You're not quite sure what's going to happen day to day, but at the same time, that's the excitement.
Yeah, that's kind of the answer, right? That's the cool part of it. So let's go back for 1 second, just because I'm a geek about football. The FA, for those of you who don't know, is a football association. I said it earlier in the intro. So you worked on the crest for the national team, right? You worked on the logo and identity for the entire football association. Did you wake up thinking, just saying, I can't believe I get to work on this? Was it a pain in the ass to work on? Was there a culture shift for the client side? I mean, talk about that experience, just because I want to hear it. I don't care if the listeners are bored or not.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a big project, and there was a team of people working on it. So, not just myself. And I mean, there was actually another guy who I worked really closely with who was probably as into football as I was, although he was a Man United fan. So this is probably one and only time in my life that I'll get on with a Man United fan.
Right, I was going to say.
But we did somehow. And he was a great designer, so we worked really well together. But, it was wild. I mean, I was pinching myself sometimes when I was on that project.
Did it get in the way at all, your football devotion?
No, absolutely.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes on a brand you can know too much. This one didn't matter.
No, and, I think, and it was a national team as well. So, I mean... Apart from working on redesigning the Leeds United crest, which is the other job that I really want to do in my life before I die, no, I think it was actually beneficial.
You should just do it.
Well, funny enough, I did. So a couple of years ago, for their 100th year, they decided, the club, I don't know who this they is, but they redesigned the crest, and it was absolutely horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this huge uproar from all Leeds United fans. And any Leeds United fan in design, I imagine, had a crack at redesigning that crest. So I was no different. I redesigned what I thought was my perfect crest. I had it made, embroidered. I've still got about 50 of these at home. Had them all embroidered, and then and sent a whole guideline set and all these crests to the club to say, look, this is free if you want it, right? This is it. Passion project. I had to do it at that point. Never heard back from them at all.
No, you're not going to hear about it.
No, and they ended up doing a variation of what we already have. So,
I worked in Hollywood for a little while, and the TV show that I worked for would not open unsolicited scripts or treatments. They had sent them back unopened because they didn't want to get in any legal trouble. Where possibly even because if they come up with the same idea later, they would need to have deniability that they ever saw the idea. So I don't know if there's any legal issues going on there.
Well, the club actually invited people to do this as well. So after the debacle of this crest that was awful, they then asked anybody who wanted to submit some crests. Right, I'd already done it, but they were kind of okay. Anybody can do it. But in the small print, it was, and if we decide to go with this, we're not going to pay you for it. Basically, not those words, but something like that. So it was kind of like it was a bit cheap, really.
That's a bit, exploitive, maybe. I just had this whole argument yesterday about Major League Soccer. The U.S. professional league is owned by the league, owns it, franchises, and all the ID, all the kits are all done by Adidas in-house design. So the new Atlanta United crest was designed by a design team at Adidas. It's not even owned by the club. So one last question about this before we move on to things that everyone wants to hear about. The FA crest has 10 flowers on it, 10 stars. There's three
it, don't you?
Three lions.
It's 3 lions, 10 roses.
What are the roses?
The roses, the roses.
What's 10?
I'm not exactly sure why there's 10, but the history obviously is there was a crest back in the day that was used to denote England. The rose is a very English flower, so that was in there. And the crest actually hasn't changed a lot from way back in the day to what it is now. So when it started back in the day, and it was, obviously on a flag somewhere when England went to war, but then it ended up on the shirt of the national team.
Mm-hmm.
It's still pretty much intact from where it was there and then. This wasn't a design job that okay, what are you gonna do now? It was there's 10 roses, 3 lions, and how do you make them better? How do you craft them and create something that people can will get tattooed on their arm, or they'll want to wear on a shirt, or how you can.
The bigger question is, how can you make the national team better? So people will put the crest on their arm and the shirt, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, that's funny because you need the team to play well to get people to want to follow it. But
I'm not saying that the crest may be jinxing
although
the national team.
England had a good World Cup, so
Okay.
I was pretty happy last time. If we can build on that,
Great, good. All right. So what? Maybe the crest has something to do with it. Maybe not. But what is the point? What's the point of design? Why do you do design? Why do you care about design?
Why do I care about it? Design changes things, doesn't it? Design helps people understand things. Design is, it's a powerful thing. I want to, especially with the work I'm doing at Thought Matter, I want to see the change that thinking and design can make, the positive impact that design can make. So and I think that's true for most designers. They want to be able to have an influence on the world. They want to, design better things. They want to make things easier for people. They want to make people understand things. So, it's kind of every day as a designer, you look around and there's things you just want to jump on and make better because that, there's an opportunity.
I love that part of what you just said. Make things easier for people. That design is designing. It's not just making visuals.
It's not just making things look better. It's the power. It's the power that when you create something that's easier to understand or that just kind of helps somebody. That actually, it's making a difference.
Yeah. So the ethos is work worth doing.
Work worth doing. Yes.
It's pretty obvious to me that from the samples you showed, these are movements that have work that they already feel is worth doing. Is there a litmus test for clients? Do clients approach you with problems that you say, well, what if you twisted it? How does that work worth doing work when it's not obviously something worth doing? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. And there's, you can flex that lens in different ways as well. It's kind of what ask the question, what is worth doing? Well, there's things that are obviously worth doing. Like the Girl Forward example I talked about is obviously something that,
for girl refugees,
For girl refugees, if you can get in there and help, then that is something that is well worth doing. Other things aren't so obvious, or you actually start a project and you uncover what's worth doing.
That's interesting.
That you've got a brief, but actually, how do you tell the story? How do you uncover that actually they're doing something they're not singing about, they're not shouting about, and how do you then take it and kind of make it sort of something that they actually show off a little bit.
Have you always been observant, seeing shadows and things like that? Like not literally observant, but these kind of insights you're saying, uncovering insights and things that something about a brand or a company or a person that they didn't realize about themselves. Is that something that's always been innately a trait of yours, a talent of yours?
I don't know. I have no idea. I think I don't know. I mean, sometimes it just happens as you're going along. You're not necessarily looking for it, but there's an aha moment where you're like, oh, actually, yeah, let's talk about this because why don't you talk about this?
Mm-hmm.
We have a project at the moment where we were sat in a briefing yesterday, and the brief was one thing. The brief was one narrative from the client side about what they wanted. But the whole time, my mind was worrying about some of the things they were saying that they weren't even thinking about promoting, or they weren't even thinking about shining a light on. And I'm like, damn, if you shine the light on some of this stuff, your perception is going to change massively, right? That you do it because you do it anyway, right? And it's part of your internal thinking. But if certain factions knew that you were doing this, it'd be a very different story. So
did you say that?
I thought it in the meeting, and yeah, I did actually. I did start to talk, and I tested the water to see, kind of.
There was an opening, right?
Yeah, and actually, I think there was. But I didn't want to. What I didn't want to do is like
negate everything.
give everything away. Before, because
if you can only think of it right then.
Because that DS1 is important, isn't it? When you walk in that room, you've got to try and blow them away with something, and that's actually the moment when you let things like that out, because it's. Oh, I didn't think of that.
Same with partners, I think. I think sometimes if I have an idea with a partner, you got to figure out the moment to bring it so it can be heard. Yeah. Not necessarily because it seemed like a first thought or whatever, but like there is an art to how you dispense insights to clients and partners.
I think a lot like that. I think sometimes you have these thoughts and you're in a briefing or you're in a meeting and you say, right, I'm going to hold that for a minute. I'm going to hold that, and that's part of the story or the narrative and the selling point. It's going to like make it exciting.
That's cool. So I'm going to get kind of zen for 1 second. So you showed a slide in your presentation of your hands on the table. Describe what your point was on that.
Somebody once told me, this was about we were talking about presentation styles and meetings and I've been through my fair share of kind of scary ass meetings where there's lots of people in the room, probably maximum of like 30 people in a room that you're trying to sell something to. So as a designer, you're not taught to present, right? You're not like this person who is kind of, you're a designer, you're a creative director. Now we're gonna really school you on how to present. You kind of you hone your own style, right? You think of your own ways of doing things. And somebody once told me that if you're feeling the heat in a meeting, or if you're feeling nervous, or it's not quite going how you want, you just rest your hands on the table. And that somehow I'm doing it now. It sometimes has this calming moment where you feel a bit more grounded, and that then just kind of helps you sort of, I don't know, ground yourself and feel a little bit more calm, right? So I kind of do that every now and then. And now I've said this out loud. People who know me or in meetings with me will probably know me doing this. But it's just this thing.
I know why it works. By the way, and in fact, I was at a parenting thing this morning where I actually, for some reason, I can't shut the fuck up. It's because this is a moment when you put your hands on the table of mindfulness when you're actually in the moment. At this moment, it's a very yogic sort of like, you're aware of yourself in space and time, so that you take yourself away from the future worry, which is what causes anxiety, or the past worry of sucking and screwing it up, which is also non-existent in Zen Buddhism. So this basically brings you to the true moment. That it's a physical practice of mindfulness and being present.
Well, I love you said that, because the guy that told me this wasn't very Zen anyway. All he knew was that somehow putting the hands on the table did something.
You don't have to understand it.
And he didn't give me much of an explanation. It wasn't like, do this because, it's literally just try it. It should work.
Right. You don't have to understand it for it to be true.
Yeah.
So a minute ago, I said something about your observation. You might not have even been observant of yourself to know that you're observant, but what personal trait of yours do you think has served you well so far in your career?
Personal trait. I think I've always tried to like kind of inspire other people, and I've always I talked about it a little bit earlier. It's kind of this, no matter what the project is, I think you have to go into it thinking it's probably going to, or hopefully going to be the best thing that you could do, right? You can get something out of nothing, and that sometimes is very hard to do. But I think people do kind of call me a bit of an eternal optimist, I guess.
That's the word I was going to use.
I'm always trying to find that positivity in things, and I probably annoy the shit out of some people, but I feel like that's a trait that I've always had, right? And
do you think you annoy people with that?
Maybe, I don't know.
Short term, possibly.
Well, probably, yeah, because there's certain people that too much positivity can get on the nerves, can't they? Especially if they want a kind of an answer, and you're just yes, be brilliant, it'll be fine, we'll get on with it. It's like, no, what are we going to do? Are we going to do it now? How are we going to sort it out, right? So I don't know. I think that is just a natural trait of mine, and I'm that sort of eternal optimist.
I guess as
You have to be an optimist being a Leeds fan anyway.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I thought I'd
led
say
you
it
right
you
to
did.
you knew I was going there. God, that was crazy. My brain, you know what happened was I couldn't remember if it was Derby or Leeds.
Well, I saw you sat there in your Atlanta hat and you were thinking on it. It was going to come soon.
Damn it, you're smarter than I am. So you mentioned in your talk that your superpower now is sort of, as a creative director, identifying talent and putting the right team or finding the right idea, sort of looking at things as a creative director. Has your superpower changed over the years? Has it evolved or changed?
Yeah, I think so. I think, and I wouldn't even actually call that what kind of getting down and doing at Thought Matter now a superpower. It's more, I don't know. I think, and it wasn't until I moved to Thought Matter that I really analysed these things anyway, right? Because it was one of the, because when you move a job, then you start to think about how you're doing things differently and you analyse it. So
helpful.
So yeah, and it's a moment of like getting out of one kind of place into another that provides clarity and you're able to think about things and analyse what you're doing. So I wouldn't call it superpower anyway, but I think I am good at finding people and kind of finding the right kind of talent. Pretty critical about who I want to work with, and I do have. I think I said it in my talk as well. I feel like I want to run that. There's so many kind of like boxes that need ticking, and it's not just one area. It's not just
right.
You might be a brilliant designer, but you might annoy the hell out of me, right?
Right.
And there's been times in my past where I've just said, well, this guy's such a good designer, this girl's such a good designer. I'm just going to go with that. But actually, I've forsaken the personality side of it, or the kind of the personable side of it, and actually, that's been a big problem.
They're problematic.
Or vice versa.
Really,
you love somebody so much who can't actually do the work.
So hard to get a job because all you have is your portfolio. I mean, like the portfolio is sort of table stakes or price of entry, right? So. I don't even want to ask the question because it's obvious the answer, but like creative directors make mistakes. You hire people based on things and you learn as it goes. So yeah, that's a challenge. I don't even know if there's a question there, but I guess the question is how can you evaluate?
I've definitely done that. I've definitely hired people, but like kind of then kind of like self question myself, saying like, why the hell did I do that?
Mm-hmm.
So it's happened a couple of times, but I'm doing all right at the moment, so I feel good at the moment.
Well, can't imagine anybody being perfect there. It's almost impossible. So knowing what you know now, if you could go back in time to 92 to the day you graduated from, what school was it? York? Somewhere in York, right?
It was called the York College of Arts and Technology.
Okay. Interesting.
Which changed halfway through to York College of Further and Higher Education.
So you knew
it's
a lot.
It's basically in York, College in York.
Right. In 92 you felt you knew a lot, but what do you wish you had known in addition to that?
Well, I think it goes back to that point we touched on earlier, which if I could think through some of the situations I've been in and like how I got through those things, I feel like if I'd have just trusted in that process a little bit more, if I would have just said actually I've got a brief here, right? This brief, I don't understand the brief at all, and I'm fretting about that, right? Because I'm getting a brief, I don't really understand it. At that point, I would like, oh my god, I'm an idiot. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what I'm hearing, right? Or then I finally understand the brief, but then I'm like, well, what idea I'm going to come up with? I've got to prove myself. I've got to get this great idea, and it's like, and then I'm trying everything to get these great ideas, and it's not happening.
So every stage was saturated with angst.
Yeah, so all this angst is flowing through every step of the way, and like if I could just double back and say, hang on a minute, you're never going to understand the brief when you first get it. You're never going to get your best idea straight away. The client may not like what you're doing, but that's fine because you will make them like what you're doing and you will have a good reason for it. So just to trust in the process and know that things will happen and things will work out and, stop fretting about that. I could have taken all that anxiety out of that time. And that's the thing I lean on a little bit now, even if, we're not quite getting there with the ideas straight away. It's going to come. And I try and like school the designers on that as well. It's a bit like, don't worry about it. Sometimes you do two ideas. One's brilliant. One is just not quite there, and you've got to really work on that idea, and you've got to kind of like, you've got to wait, and you've got to it'll come, but you've got to wait and get there.
I have a new theory.
Go on.
I think we feel that angst when we're young because anxiety I think that the fight or flight, adrenaline, and cortisol, the stress hormone that released by the brain, are necessary components to a young person to create the energy required to come up with ideas. And this sort of sense of constant deadlines happening. Whereas where you and I sit, we have the maturity and experience to know good ideas quicker. So we don't need the anxiety in order to come up with a good idea. Yeah. This is a theory. I'm making it up as we go. But there is an absolute survival purpose to anxiety. And I think when you're young, there's no fucking way that current Ben is going to talk 92 Ben out of being anxious.
Oh, no.
And there's no way, possibly, the second part of my theory is that if you were successful in the time machine talking to young Ben, the ideas wouldn't have been as good.
No.
Because he would have said, I don't have to worry about it.
Ben would have like fallen on his ass, wouldn't he? So he's kind of...
Just gone off and had a few pints and called it a night because old Ben said it's going to happen anyway.
And old Ben tried that a lot. Old Ben would just sometimes go off and have a few pints.
Well, you have to.
And sometimes that was the best thing to do.
Yeah, because you're shutting out, letting your brain do the work in the background.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks so much for talking.
No problem.
It's been fun. I really appreciate it.
Enjoyable. Thank you.
It's great. Listeners, if you want to see more, and I highly and strongly recommend that you do so, thoughtmatter.com is not just a portfolio website. It's not just a brochure page for a design shop. It's a robust, interactive, entertaining, colorful, vibrant experience. So really go to the website and check it out. I did not know anything. Kiri Jewell set this up. Kiri, if you're listening to this far, thank you for sticking with the podcast this long. Thank you for sending us two brilliant minds in Paul Charney and Ben Greengrass. I cannot say enough about that. It's been a pleasure meeting both of these guys. And Ben, thank you so much again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Listeners, send me an email, danspodcast@mac.com, and like the Instagram page at DGMS Podcast. Talk to you all soon. See you. Bye.